In the next 60 minutes here on Newsnight, your work is incomplete. The verdict of the Speaker of Parliament to the special committee set up to investigate the leaked IGP tape following disagreements on the floor about the committee's report, which has been rejected by the chairman, Samuel Atacha.
What I see happening now means that the committee has not actually completed its job because you are contradicting each other. I direct that further deliberation of this matter be suspended and the committee is called upon to go back to further consider this matter.
Well, details from the open disagreements between the chairman and members of the committee, where the chairman accusing the NDC MPs of blocking every evidence from coming to the committee.
And the outcome was 3-2. So what my colleague is saying, it's a complete misrepresentation and he needs to withdraw.
We are not going to think any longer. We are going to vote certain things out. What is the basis of a committee of parliament saying, let's block the issue of extrajudicial killings under the magnitude?
Also tonight, Chief Justice dismisses petition for the removal of the Special Prosecutor Kissie Jabeng, insisting the factual and legal foundation of the petition falls short of the standard required to establish a prima facie case. We have details of what we are learning so far.
And also tonight we hear from the NDC as they declared no further appointments to the Supreme Court, and they caution the president as the party accuses him and the Chief Justice of a grand conspiracy to park the court with MPP-inclined judges.
The clandestine and backdoor dealings to appoint loyalists represent a disgrace. We demand that the Chief Justice retract the unconstitutional request to appoint additional judges and ensure future actions strictly aligned with legal and ethical standards.
Tonight we bring you the NDC's chronology of events, which it says backs their claim that the Chief Justice dabbled in unconstitutionality.
In business, cities' firm stability can be linked to completion of deal with Eurobond holders and bilateral creditors.
And in sports, head coach of Sudan national team Kwesi Appiah hopeful that his side will qualify alongside Ghana as the Black Stars draw Sudan, Angola and Niger in the 2025 AFCON qualifiers.
We have that and more in tonight's edition of Newsnight. Do want to join us with your thoughts. Your comment is via WhatsApp 055 1111 997. We are live on my
Day on the floor of Parliament, indeed, and the parliamentary report into the leaked tape alleging a plot to remove the IGP has been shelved by the House for now. It follows a determination by the Speaker that the committee had not concluded its work after fierce disagreements between the chairman of the committee and the vice chairman over the content of that report.
Well, the chairman, Samuel Atacha, explained the committee could not have completed its report without going into the allegations of extrajudicial killings made against the IGP, Dr. George Akuffo-Dampare. First, we can listen to the vice chairman of the committee, James Agalga, presenting the report of the committee, which the chairman refused to sign. Well, James Agalga urged the House to adopt the report and recommended that the police officers involved are disciplined by the Police Council and the President.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this honourable House adopts the report of the Special Committee of Inquiry into the content of a leaked audio tape of a high-ranking police officer and others in an alleged conspiracy to remove the current Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akuffo-Dampare, and related matters. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I would pray you to kindly direct that the Hansa Department captures the report in full, whilst I give the highlights. Right Honourable Speaker, your good self caused the committee to be set up, and if you look at page 3 of the committee's report.
Well, another member of the committee, Peter Lanchini Tobu, himself a former senior police officer, spoke directly to allegations of extrajudicial killings against the IGP and said they were unproven.
In camera, what was highlighted was a matter of extrajudicial killings by Superintendent Asare. And he said all the extrajudicial killings that he mentioned, whether it was a killing on the Aflawo Road, whether it was a killing in Bole Bamboy, whether it was killing at Botiama, whether it was killing of Nigerians at the police headquarters, we invited him to prove. In other words, support the committee. And he said he didn't have any witness. In other words, he didn't have anybody to support him, apart from one person that he mentioned the name, one ASP Jalil. Mr. Speaker, as we're getting excited to invite Jalil to the committee, Jalil wrote a letter to the committee, and if you permit me, I'll read. Request to invite witnesses to testify. Please accept my warm compliment. On Saturday, the 23rd day of September 2023, there was a letter with the above heading circulating on various police and social media platforms. Paragraph 2 of the said letter stated to the effect that I would be called as witness of Superintendent George Asare, who alleged that there were some extrajudicial killings by the Inspector General of Police, to testify in the ongoing parliamentary probe. I state that there has been no such arrangement or agreement to testify on Superintendent Asare's behalf, for which any such communication should be disregarded and treated with the utmost contempt that it deserves. So when we found this, the committee sat and said, let's agree on one thing. Superintendent Asare, during the public hearing, talked about extrajudicial killings. In camera, he repeated the same. We are going to give Superintendent Asare the last opportunity. If it comes and it is a hearsay evidence, we will end the matter there. Here comes Superintendent Asare, who wants to rely on ASP Jalil.
I want to take it to Parliament now. I want to bring in my parliamentary correspondent, Kweku Asante, is with me on the line. Kweku, so we heard today, for the first time, from the chairman of this special committee that was set up by the Speaker. He laid out his reasons for not signing the committee's report. What were they?
Samuel Atatia was not on the floor of Parliament when all this was happening. In fact, when these two MPs spoke, he had not taken his seat. But it appeared someone had nudged him. In fact, he was chairing another committee, Mines and Energy Committee, into some matters. He then walked into the chamber, took his seat, and watched as proceedings went on. And when the Speaker of Parliament gave him the opportunity, you could clearly see how furious he was and how pent up his emotions were. He started by saying that the committee that he chaired had not done a good job because some members of the committee, it appeared, had their own motives and were not clear in terms of getting to the bottom of certain cases. He said, for instance, those extrajudicial killings you hear Peter Lanchini Tobu refer there, that the committee had been told that the IGP had supervised some extrajudicial killings of some 7 Nigerians and other persons, for which reason he wanted the committee to get the bottom of. For the first time, we are getting to know that it was actually put to a vote on the floor, and that 3 NDC MPs on the committee, led by James Agaga, voted against the recommendation to probe further those allegations, whilst 2 NPP MPs voted against it. Mind you, the chairman of the committee did not have his own vote on the committee, only has a casting vote. He believes that by virtue of this, the committee did not do a good job. Listen to him on the floor, make his own case.
If extrajudicial killings were not on the tape, and at one level, I'll go into those matters. That is why they reported on it, because extrajudicial killings were strong on the tape. No one, about 3 of them. And that is why we took the quality decision that by reason of national security implications, let's have in-camera hearing regarding the extrajudicial killings. So the extrajudicial killing is not my invention. They were on the tape. And according to the mandate you gave us, and let me read it, ascertain the veracity or otherwise of the leaked tape. Yes? Yes. And then also investigate any other matter contained in the audio recording. And in the audio recording were 3 levels of extrajudicial killings. One of them is the one at the mango tree. Now, my problem is this.
If this honorable, if this distinguished speaker should invite us to go into matters on the tape, and on the tape are issues of extrajudicial killing, and somebody writes to you that somebody writes to the committee that I want to come and testify on the matter, even if you said it is hearsay at the level of Asari. It was testified, and the lawyer of Asari also confirmed that Jelly, who is supposed to be the witness, the eyewitness, and said he took photographs of those who were killed before they were shot, and the rest of it is alive. And then he came to my office and he said we should record him concerning the extrajudicial killing matters. And the committee of Parliament should say we will not go into the issues of the extrajudicial killings. And it was not just all the members who said so. 3 of them said so. That the issue of investigating the extrajudicial killing is inconsequential to them. Then what were we sitting there for? That you called us. Just a minute. Okay. You called us to cover the evidence.
Kweku, so how did the speaker handle this?
Well, it should be put on record that James Agaga was on his feet. In fact, you hear the speaker say just a minute because he wanted to give James Agaga some time to also respond to some of these things. But ultimately, the speaker did first decide to suspend the House because it was getting heated. In fact, the chairman and his vice, as well as other members of the committee who were on the floor, were all up on their feet, exchanging words, sometimes into the mic and sometimes outside of the microphone. The speaker did first suspend sitting for 5 minutes, as he will usually do when emotions are high on the floor, to say what he would say to go and consult the old lady. He went back to try and calm things down. It appeared that members had still taken entrenched positions. The speaker then returned and said that it appeared clearly from what had transpired on the floor that the committee had not concluded its work. They had not done the work according to the terms of reference that Parliament gave them, for which reason he is referring the matter back to Samuel Atachia and this special committee to go back and complete their work and present a unified report that the House can then consider and adopt or otherwise. Listen.
Clear that the committee has not completed the job. And so I will direct that we suspend further consideration of this matter and will refer the matter to the committee, and I will call on the committee to meet me so that we can present a better report that will enable the House to take a decision. The counter accusations, allegations, and all those things has actually not created an atmosphere that the House could take a decision that will get a buy-in of the people represent. And so I direct that further deliberation of this matter be suspended, and the committee is called upon to go back to further consider this matter. And as I said, before you do so, please kindly get in touch with me. It's for good reason. It's for good reason that I've taken this decision. So, honorable members, further consideration of item 31 on the order paper is accordingly deferred.
And Kweku, do we have clarity on what this means? Because the only issue I hear in contention is whether or not to open the floor at the committee level to take that evidence on these extrajudicial killings. Does this mean that the committee will have to go back and do that before they return with a report signed by all the members, including the chairman?
Yes, the speaker does not really want to direct the committee into specific areas they should be going. But he says it appears this matter of extrajudicial killings has become what the main division between members of the committee, for which reason he wants them to go back. And so the committee will now have to decide whether they will hold special hearings into this specific allegations of extrajudicial killing, or they will probably broaden the scope. However, the speaker is already issuing out a stern warning to members on both sides that This has real issues, real implications for Ghana's national security. Mind you, these so-called 7 persons that allegedly were killed at the police headquarters upon the instructions of the IGP are Nigerians. That is what Atasia said on the floor. The Speaker says this has diplomatic consequences between Ghana and Nigeria, for which reason he has issued a stern warning to members on both sides that he does not want to hear or see any MP speaking on this matter. And if any MP goes against this directive, there will be severe sanctions on that MP.
To not only Ghana, but also to our brotherly and sisterly countries, particularly Nigeria. And so, please desist from discussions of this matter outside the House. I also want to appeal to our brothers and sisters in the media to take into deep consideration the security implications, the lives of each and every one of us. For me, I know there's no difference between Ghana and Nigeria. Almost all of us here, when we are tracing our roots, we trace them to Nigeria, because God created us to be mobile, and man, woman were always in motion. So the blood relationship is such that no different at all, and we should see it as such. Please, no further discussion of this matter, and this is an appeal to the press corps, particularly those who are present here and have covered it. I know because of the new media, it has gone beyond the presence of Parliament, but it's an appeal to all. We should handle this matter with all the seriousness that it deserves. No member of Parliament should be heard or seen commenting on this matter outside the floor of this House. The floor of this House. If my attention is drawn to it, I will exact, through the due process of law, the highest sanction that can be visited on a member of Parliament in connection with this matter. The laws are there. The Parliament Act is there. The Constitution is there. And so you can go through them and see what I mean by this.
And that there's a Speaker of Parliament, and since then all MPs are complying with this gag order issued by the Speaker. I want to bring in Kofi Bentil. He's a member of the IGP's legal team. Also joining us is Dr. Adam Bona. He's a security analyst and chief executive of the Security Warehouse Limited. Mr. Bentil, what's your reaction? What's your reaction to what we've just heard there?
Good evening, Evans. My reaction is two ways. I'm a bit surprised that this has to be sent back because I'm not sure what really is left to be done. And that is based on the fact that per the rules of Parliament, Honorable Atachia's refusal to participate in the original paper, which has been regularly laid and everything, has no effect on that paper. That said, the Speaker has a right to do what he's done. And so I don't think to that extent it is irregular. My worry is what else, they are looking for, and whether this is all just about Honorable Atachia's refusal to participate. We have said, and we have no qualms about saying so, that Honorable Atachia has a predetermined outcome that he's looking for. And to the extent that he's not getting it, he's just doing everything possible to get that predetermined outcome. The other side of this is that the Speaker was cautioning them about creep. That you have something you have to focus on. Please do not creep into other things and create situations that would, not be good for anybody, including international problems. Hello, Evans, do you still hear me?
Loud and clear.
Good. Now, he makes, for instance, an example of this extrajudicial killing allegation, which is, baseless. It does not belong in this arrangement. Look, honestly, if there has been extrajudicial killings Is this the kind of committee that is supposed to be dealing with it? You're talking about murder, you're talking about criminal, conduct of the highest level involving international, dimensions. This is not the way to handle it. So this whole embrace by Ataxia of every and any allegation and wanting to go through it and definitely make, the victim, the accused, won't wash. And I don't think any institution should, support that kind of vendetta.
He was challenged on that.
People.
He was challenged on that subject today by the Speaker himself about whether this extrajudicial killing allegation is within the terms of reference. And he reads the clause that says, consider any other thing on the tape. And the Speaker seemed to agree with him that, yes, if that's the case, then you didn't conclude your work.
Well, we don't have all the time to go through this, but this is a matter of interpretation. If somebody says, go and listen to the audio and any issues that, arise out of that, you must know that there were a first order of items that they were supposed to look at, whether it is authentic, okay, and who were the persons there. And then the issues related to that. Again, I repeat, Evans, there can be no stretch of interpretation which brings the Speaker's remit or his terms of reference to the point where Parliament is giving power to set up a stop committee to investigate murder of an international dimension involving high officials of state. It is not possible. And if Parliament is arrogating to itself that authority, it will come to find that it does not have it. Parliament cannot investigate murder. So what I'm saying is that, look, there's a very serious stretch of the terms of reference, and it is not washing, but still, I hope this second reference, okay, to completing the work does not lead to another creep and another opening of the floodgates to receive every and all allegations which the committee is not requested or required to go into. And we all have to focus on Ataxia's conduct in this whole matter.
If they decide to reopen this, will you cooperate?
You will realize that from day one, my client has instructed that we cooperate to the fullest. And so we will do that. However, there are many issues here. And as lawyers, we have to advise him that sometimes there is a point where you get to where you have to insist that the right things be done. If somebody is going to accuse him of murder, Parliament is not the place to check whether it is true or not. So there will be times where we would say, look, much as you want to cooperate, and we will do what you want us to do, there are certain matters that when they come up, you would have to say, I cannot answer this in this forum. I will choose a better forum to answer it. But I assure you, the IG has nothing to hide. He has been under scrutiny for over a year. The man runs a very huge institution, and if there was anything untoward, it would have come out by now. So we will cooperate. But indeed, we all have to work towards making sure that no person or group of persons can hijack any institution of state to use them to persecute any other person.
Mr. Bentel, thank you very much. And Kofi Bentel is a member of the IGP's legal team. Joining us also is Dr. Adam Bonai. He's a security analyst, chief executive of the Security Warehouse Limited. On the floor today, Mr. Adams, the Speaker himself acknowledged that this has serious national security implications. And yet, it was discussed. These matters we didn't know before, although they were mentioned in passing on the tape. What's your own assessment of what this means for national security?
Well, Evans, good evening. For me, I think that opening up this issue, bringing it back again with regards to, what's the name, extrajudicial killings of Nigerians, 7 Nigerians. I think that those who are making the allegations, I'm not aware that there are some missing Nigerians, probably that the state has failed to take note of. And again, we have the Nigerian High Commission in Ghana. Has this been reported to the Nigerian High Commission that some 7 Nigerians in Ghana have been killed in this manner they are alleging? And so, as far as I'm concerned, if you listen to what transpired today on the floor of Parliament, it is a witness who is inviting another witness to come and give testimony again, with regards to some persons who have been killed. But as regards to whether this is true or not, I am sure that, as the Speaker said, we shouldn't go probably into the nitty-gritties of it. But does that make the report incomplete, if you ask me? I would say that no. I wouldn't say it makes the report incomplete, even though the Speaker said so. Let's wait and see if there is going to be further directives by the Speaker. But then those who are alleging, I want to see missing persons list, because then the Nigerian community in Ghana is large and they know one another. So has the Nigerian community in Ghana made any allegations or reported of some of their brothers or sisters who have been killed?
And we'll see, really, as you made the point, where the Speaker goes with this. We understand that there has been another private meeting between the committee members and the Speaker on this because of its very sensitive nature. And Mr. Bonner, thank you very much. And we wait to see how the committee proceeds after today's revelations on the floor. Still listen to News 90s on Joy 99.7 FM.
Wait. Let us bring before you the body of our investigation as evidence. And if you look at it and you decide that the evidence does not show up to the standard of proof required in criminal cases, then you can dismiss it. But don't prevent us from doing our work, from investigating.
And tonight, the Chief Justice Gertrude Saki-Tokonu has dismissed the petition by the former Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu that sought to remove his successor, Kisie Jabing, from office. Well, according to joining sources, the Chief Justice determined that the factual and legal foundation of the petition falls short of the standard required to establish a prima facie case for the removal of the Special Prosecutor. Well, the petition, dated April 30, 2024, was reportedly sent to the President by Mr. Amidu and conveyed to the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu on May 6, 2024. Well, there were allegations of procurement breaches in the purchase of vehicles for the Office of the Special Prosecutor and abuses involving judges and the administration of justice. Well, today, that petition has been dismissed. We've been seeing reports of a reaction from Martin Amidu on this, raising concerns about due process, amongst others. But thankfully, we've been joined on the phone by private legal practitioner and host of Newsfile here on Joy News and Joy 99.7 FM, Samson Ladianyen, and we are grateful for your time here on Newsline. Did we see this coming?
I couldn't have seen any difference on the basis of the very clearly wrongly headed, baseless. I mean, they were clearly non-factual, and in legal terms, procedural terms, there was no basis whatsoever to mount the allegations. Let's take, for example, very clearly, you say he has made arrest and in that regard abused the rights of certain citizens by wrong use of his power of arrest. The special prosecutor has powers of police. If your right is abused in that direction, the individuals involved have a right to invoke the jurisdiction of the court by way of human rights, fundamental human rights provisions of the Constitution in Chapter 15. So if you say Professor Frimpong Boateng, Cecilia Dapa were all dealt in a way in which their rights were abused by arrest, I don't get that. And we were very clear at the very beginning when some of us, made our comments about these. So, prima facie, the Chief Justice obviously could not have, held differently on the question of procurement. Let's talk about the very laughable, ground of RTI request. You have made an RTI request to the special prosecutor. If your RTI request is not granted, that is grounds for removal from office. This is serious, and it shouldn't be a joke at all that if there was something that ought to be done to show that people who file, very baseless petitions, flimsy petitions, ought to suffer some consequence for it, rather than drag all of us and the nation to this expense. The CJ has spent her precious time doing the work of finding a prima facie. It went to the presidency first, and all these processes have been gone through. It's a waste of the public resource in a manner that ought not be countenanced. If you file an RTI request and you are denied, the law itself provides a remedy, and you, at Joy, have been following that process. You follow up with an appeal for review to the head of the institution. If that is also declined, then you go to the RTI Commission. If at the RTI Commission they also affirm the decision to not give you the information, the law says go to the High Court. Amidu knows this better than anybody else. But you see the hate campaign he has mounted against the special prosecutor from day one. You won't do the job. Someone else is going to do it. Help them at least. I don't know what is going on really.
Already, we are seeing reports attributed to Mr. Martin Amidu raising concerns about procedural matters. At least you've been there before, at least in the case of the former Shraj boss. From what you know so far in this particular case, trying to establish the prima facie case, do you think that there's a contravention of due process in this matter?
I have seen what has been attributed to him, and indeed they come from him. I'm surprised again. I think he's got to be reminded and assisted to refresh his memory about the procedure. He is expecting that the CJ would have sat down to do this together with him. Is that how he's expecting that it ought to have been done? Well, from the practice that I know and the procedure I know, the CJ, this is in the domain of the CJ. They do the prima facie and then they inform you through a letter. From what we understand, he's been served with a letter, and the letter says that what he filed does not meet the standard to be able to make a prima facie determination. Now, when I was doing that matter you referred to, there were several petitions in the same way, asking for the same things that we had also filed the petition about. But those petitions failed. Our petition succeeded. It succeeded because we took our time, not only make the allegations, but we backed the allegations with the evidence that was required. And so when the prima facie came, we were not surprised that our petition carried the day, but other people, including an MP or so, who had also filed similar things, they just wrote letters and made the allegations without more. And those were thrown away.
Okay, we are grateful, and that's Samson Ladi Anyenini there on the dismissal of that petition by former Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu against or looking for the removal of Kisi Ejaping, the current Special Prosecutor.
And you're live here on Newsnight. It's on Joy 99.7 FM, and George Yafe is here with business. Hello, George.
Hi, Evans, and coming up in business, we'll actually hear about firms that lead to the city can be linked to completion of deal with Eurobond holders and bilateral creditors. And former Minister of Finance, Tepe, warns next administration could struggle to meet its debt obligations as current government has exhausted all the buffers and reserves. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, Sintestanks, and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal. You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, the city's firm stability against the dollar can be linked to full completion of deal with Eurobond holders and bilateral creditors. Now, that's the view of research lead of GCB Capital, Courage Boshi. It follows concern that the local currency has taken too long to witness the much talked about rally post-deal with the IMF and external creditors. Courage Botillo says unless these creditors' deal is signed, the expected appreciation may not happen now.
this effect, that is definitive stability. But we haven't actually realized some of these things yet to trigger correction. You realize that the same developments are in the Eurobond market. You are not seeing Eurobond yield rally so much. In fact, at best, you can talk of stability. And in fact, even this moment, people are trading Eurobonds just to take advantage of whatever is coming. And so I think the dynamics are really, the expectations of all these things happening have been priced in. And so don't expect any very significant change, especially when the inflow we are talking about is 360 million, which doesn't alter the dynamics that much.
Courage Botti is research lead at GCB Capital. Now, former Minister of Finance Setekwe is warning that the next administration could struggle to meet its debt obligations due to deal with the current creditors and lenders. Now, the concerns come at a time that government is set to have concluded negotiations with external creditors. Now, this could see government start debt repayment from next year. The former Minister of Finance has been speaking in a virtual engagement with journalists on Ghana's debt restructuring and the IMF program. He's also been raising concerns about the lack of information on all these negotiations.
The last fiscal data is June 2023, which means that we do not have even end June 2024, end December 2024, which should have been released as part of the first quarter. And we are in July. Hopefully, we will get a half year. I don't know if we have to wait, for the media review before we get this data. It's disappointing because these are now part of law, the PFMA, and the time when these reports should have been released. And I think in a period like this, it would help to avoid speculation, a lot of speculation, that could come, with government's inability to publish, the data. So I would like to urge the Ministry of Finance. It is where our biggest challenge is the public debt, our default, the restructuring that we are going on. There is no information.
Former Minister of Finance Setekwe speaking in a virtual engagement with journalists on Ghana's debt restructuring and the IMF program. The Trade Minister, KTM, has finally submitted a legislative instrument aimed at regulating the prices of cement. But what is captured in this document that is currently before Parliament? We have details in this report.
Based on what has been submitted to Parliament, the cement manufacturers and any entity involved in the cement industry shall, at the beginning of every month, submit a report on the ex-factory price of cement to the committee. This report that will be submitted should take into consideration the cost of transportation and distribution, profit margin, and other related costs. Other issues that the committee will be demanding will be labor cost, exchange rate, and the profit margin. The legislation instrument also reveals that if the committee is then satisfied with what has been submitted, then that will be published on the website of the Ghana Standards Authority. The cement manufacturers should not publish any price that has not been approved by the authority. However, the manufacturers, on the other hand, have maintained that the performance of the Ghana cedi is a major contributor to the pricing of their products. Therefore, if government wants to control pricing, they should focus on stabilizing the Ghana cedi.
And that is a business desk report. Meanwhile, the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry is strongly kicking against this plan. The president of the chamber, Dr. Clement Amarco, says the move is outdated and will not help the economy in the long run.
I believe that demand and supply must equate for us to have a price. We live in a liberalized economy. And so when you talk about price control, it has this ripple effect. The government, the individual goes to borrow money at a very high rate and then employ people to work with. Allow them to fix their price because we are in a competitive market where others too, if you want to look at the number of cement factories, they are not one. About 3, 4, 5, 6, a lot of them. Each of them wants to maximize profits or make sure that they have their price is quite reasonable for them to have the demand and produce quality goods. And so you allow them to determine the price. When the economy is good and everything is going on well, you don't need to intervene. If you do that and they even want to fold up, where can we get this money? Are we going to import with our foreign, the little effects that we have?
Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry President Dr. Clement Mwako. Let's turn our attention to the stock market. Atlantic Lithium saw one of its biggest gains on the market at the close of trading today. It went up by 39 pesos to close at 5 Ghana cedis, 39 pesos. MTN was up by a peso and it's now worth 1 Ghana cedi, 86 pesos. And that's all for business on Newsnight.
And thank you very much, George. You're still live. Your Newsnight is on Joy 99.7 FM. And to that subject that the NDC has been dealing with today, and they desist from making any further appointment to the Supreme Court. That is the NDC's caution to President Akufo-Addo as the party accuses him and the Chief Justice of a grand conspiracy to pack the Supreme Court with judges sympathetic to the MPP. At the news conference addressed by the party's General Secretary, Fifi Kwete, the NDC also admonished the Chief Justice, Gertrude Torkornoo, to retract what it says is the unconstitutional request for more judges to be appointed.
We demand that President Akufo-Addo immediately stop any plans to appoint additional judges to the Supreme Court. This reckless is not just a political maneuver. It is an outrageous assault on our democracy and a betrayal of public trust. 2, adherence to constitutional processes. We demand that any future appointment to the Supreme Court must strictly follow the constitutional process, including consultation with the Judicial Council. This blatant disregard for established procedures is not only unconstitutional, but also morally reprehensible. It is a slap in the face to every Ghanaian who believes in the rule of law and the sanctity of our democratic institutions. 3, transparency and accountability. We call for the full disclosure of the criteria and process used for the selection of these judges. This is essential to ensure transparency and accountability. The clandestine and backdoor dealings to appoint loyalists represent a disgrace. We demand that the Chief Justice retract the unconstitutional request to appoint additional judges and ensure future actions strictly align with legal and ethical standards. This brazen overreach into the judicial realm is unforgivable. It is time to reverse these illegal actions and restore faith in our judicial system. 6, public and civil society engagement. The government must engage with civil society, legal professionals, and the public to discuss and review the process of judicial appointment, to restore trust and ensure fairness. The voice of the people must be heard. The current administration's attempt to silence dissent and operate in the shadows represent a direct threat to our democratic. 7, ensuring merit-based appointment. Future judicial appointment must be based on merit, experience, and integrity, rather than political affiliations or loyalties.
Meanwhile, the Chief Justice, Gertrude Torkornoo, has justified her recommendation to President Akufo-Addo to consider 5 judges for the Supreme Court.
There are several cases pending, right? That's why we need more Supreme Court judges. Discussion must be placed in context.
It would actually have been very wonderful to see 3 chambers of the Supreme Court sitting at the same time. One in the old Supreme Court upstairs. And then perhaps
you should build a new Supreme Court building for the nation.
Right.
Or the Minister of Finance should.
And let's bring in my colleague, Maxwell Wagba, who was at that press conference for us. And Maxwell, the NDC General Secretary, provided some further evidence to back their claim that the Chief Justice dabbled in unconstitutionality.
Exactly, Evans. The party has been providing what it says. It's a chronology of events. It says it all started on the 30th of May. The Chief Justice, in the letter dated this day, made the recommendation for the president to appoint the 5 judges to the Apex Court. It says that letter was received by the president on 4th June 2024. The Attorney General then followed with another letter dated 21st June 2024, expressing support for the Chief Justice's recommendation. The party says an emergency judicial council meeting was hurriedly convened on 24th June by the Chief Justice, who is also the chair of the Judicial Council. The party says at the said meeting, the Chief Justice presented the AG's letter of 21st June to make a case to the council for these appointments. This year, the Chief Justice remained silent about the fact that she put in the request and only focused on the AG's letter. And the NDC says its deep throat sources told them that the Judicial Council, however, kicked against the appointment, the recommendation. The party says it has in its possession a letter signed by the president of the Ghana Bar Association, dated 29th April and addressed to President Akufo-Addo. In that letter, the Ghana Bar Association also kicked against the recommendation. They say, from the chronology of event, it is clear that the Chief Justice sought to put out the names of these judges as though they were coming from the Attorney General on behalf of the President, that's President Akufo-Addo Evans.
It is interesting to note that this brazen, unsolicited request from the Chief Justice, dated 30th May 2024, was promptly received by President Akufo-Addo on 4th June 2024. Subsequent to that, the Attorney General, who is the chief persecutor of the minority leader in the Court of Justice of Efia Asariboche, brazenly followed with another letter dated 21st June 2024, expressing support for the Chief Justice's unsolicited and unconstitutional request.
And Maxwell, also, we're hearing about whether or not the GBA itself has anything to say about this. You've been trying to get the GBA on this matter. Have you been successful on this?
Exactly. We've been trying to hear from them, the outside, especially on claims by the NDC that they objected to that recommendation from the Chief Justice. We've been unsuccessful trying to get them to speak to the issue, but a deep throat source who is part of the leadership of the Ghana Bar Association confirmed to me that indeed the NDC communicated the Ghana Bar Association's position on the matter at the press conference, and that because it involved the Chief Justice, it will be difficult to speak to it publicly, Evans.
And when they say the NDC communicated their position, what is their position?
Their position that they objected to the recommendation from the CJ that 5 judges should be appointed to the Apex Court, Evans.
Thank you very much, Maxwell, there covering that press conference for us by the NDC. We can do sports now, and Musbao is here with the latest.
2025 AFCON draw, which took place in South Africa, and Ghana has been drawn in a very interesting group there, alongside in Group F, to be precise, alongside Sudan, Niger, and Angola. Well, my colleague Daniel Cranton has been monitoring the group and, has this report.
In Group F, drawn along with Angola, Niger, and Sudan. Angola were in Ghana's qualifying group for the last AFCON. Remember, the Black Stars won in Kumasi and then drew away in Rwanda. The two teams will meet again in this qualifying series. Also, another familiar face, not necessarily the team, but the man who's in charge of the team, Kwesi Appiah, former Black Stars head coach. He's in charge of Sudan. So Ghana will have 2 goals at Kwesi Appiah. Sudan has started really well in the World Cup qualifying, and the Black Stars will have to go past Kwesi Appiah's side if they want to make another AFCON appearance. Niger, obviously, Black Stars in recent history have not necessarily faced that team, but Ghana will be wary considering our recent form when it comes to qualifying, and then the AFCON in itself. It's not really been the best for Ghana. But when you look at this group on the surface, you expect Ghana to be able to qualify, especially because the top 2 teams will qualify at the end of the day.
Joyce was down currently there. Well, head coach for the Sudanese side, Kwesi Appiah, who was Ghana's coach in 2012 to 2014, then from 2017 to 2019, has also been speaking, and he says, on quote, he says, "I've always said that there are no minnows in football." He said it's really important that any team you meet, you prepare very well and make sure you have the right team to try and win the day. And he adds that, personally, I also think and hope that Ghana and Sudan qualify in that group. For now, I think that is what I can say with both teams. He spoke with our colleagues 3 Sports on that qualification group there. So if that's it, and the games are expected to start in September. The Black Stars will play their first game in September, and the tournament itself will start next year, December 21, all the way to January 2026. So that's it. It will take place in Morocco.
Thank you very much. And you're still live here on News 90s on Joy 99.7 FM. You know, this is still your election headquarters. And MFI, you've been to the UK very recently, have you not? You love the UK, I know that. And you know, they're voting today.
Yes.
And for many Ghanaians, one of the key issues of concern to them is who will be tighter or less tight, or if you like, liberal on the subject of immigration. Well, we say we are the election headquarters here in Ghana, but we're election headquarters wherever it happens. So it'll be very heavy on the US elections too. And talking about that, voters have been queuing all day in the United Kingdom to elect their local MPs and also help choose the UK's next government. I want to bring you right now Daniel Dadzi. Works for the BBC now, from a colleague of ours. He's on the ground for us there and joins us right now via Zoom. Daniel, what has it been like today?
Evans, it's been a very quiet day. So the way the election campaign or the election cycle runs is that you don't know much about what happens until after polls close at 10 p.m. and the exit polls begin to come out. And so today has been a lot of reporting on queues at the polling stations, and, you know, people have been taking comic relief, sending pictures of their pets that they took with them to the polling stations. But trust me, the key conversations that the day ended with yesterday were those final election e-poll numbers, which showed that the Labour Party was still projected to win the largest majority in a British election in 200 years, predating even the formation of the Labour Party itself. And so, bar a huge surprise, the polling numbers from YouGov's portal may hold out. We do not know that yet. But it's quite quiet. It's going to get a lot busier at 10 p.m., Evans.
It will be. And indeed, for the Ghanaian community there, what are the issues of a concern to them in these polls?
So there are issues directly affecting Ghanaians who live in the UK. And there are also issues which, by extension, will affect Ghanaians back at home. Answering your question more directly, in the past couple of years, immigration laws have changed, particularly when you're dealing with skilled migrants. So those are people who most of them entered through schooling and decided to stay on through the opportunities that were provided for them by the UK government. Last year, that changed. And that changed quite significantly. People who were coming in on student visas were no longer allowed to come with their dependents, which is something that I know a number of people did. Imagine you're in Ghana, you get the opportunity to study in the UK, you'd like to come with your wife and your children, and that has changed. Also, the threshold in terms of salaries for people who are sponsored by their workplaces to do what is called, to go on what is called a skilled worker visa has gone up. That was quite significant, Evans, because I do know that there were some people who got job offers from key institutions. It was published about the HSBC, for instance, and those offers were rescinded because that threshold went higher. And so that rank of job role was no longer covered by the skilled worker visa. So I know a lot of young migrants who have been talking about that. Of course, Labour has not been as clear on what they intend to do about skilled migrants, but they have said that they want to get those net migration figures down. Now, net migration, of course, is the difference between those who come into the country and those who leave the country every year. The targets that the Conservative government set for themselves was 100,000. At the moment, it's way in excess of 600,000. And so that is something that's Labour is pointing at as a Conservative failure. And that is their reaction to that is something that a lot of young Ghanaians will be looking at. Of course, the core issue of the economy and the cost of living crisis is also something that they'll be looking at. Because last year, I'm sure you reported yourself during the exit of Liz Truss and the entrance of Rishi Sunak, there were a number of key economic difficulties, particularly looking at the currency, that is the British pound itself. Inflation was also quite high. A number of those macroeconomic indicators have been stabilized over time, but like we say during most elections, there have been some complaints that the economic gains have not translated into the cost of living crisis. Those are some of the issues that you look at. And you must remember that, as you know, the third highest foreign exchange earner for the country, Ghana, is foreign remittances. A lot of those foreigners are in the UK, and so people
right.
at
When
home
you send down
will
the
need to
pounds.
pay attention to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people at home are following this very closely because it has implications indeed for our own local economy and for the immigration status of a lot of people who still live in the United Kingdom, the place that many still want to travel to. We're keeping a close eye on the elections there. We'll be bringing you the results as and when we get it. Just check on myjoyonline.com. If Papa's dreams of going to school and, getting his or his family
school
there.
at this age. I'm done.
Yeah, why not?
I'm done.
You're
I'm
probably
done.
doing
You
your
have
PhD.
to go. No.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's
but,
okay.
But that's what it is. The laws are changing. And so if you are a Ghanaian in the UK, who are you voting for?
Stammer, maybe.
Okay. Labour.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see. By the way, that's it for News Night tonight. And up next, there's a conversation.
Yes.
Oh, goodness me. This is an interesting one. Who is Lexis talking to?
Esther Cover.
You really want to stay for that?
Yes.
On the personality profile. The CEO of the Strategic Communications Africa, Stratcom. Stay with Lexis right up to News Night.